Welcome everybody to Ringsiders Wrestling. Today I'm joined by someone I've been wanting to speak to for quite a while now. We've been lucky enough to set it up. Someone I really enjoy the work of, especially on Twitter, where I first saw his account. Very good, positive message for the Twitter community that can usually be quite toxic. Today I'm joined by the promoter of Uncanny Attraction, Darnell Mitchell. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And also, a very nice introduction. It's like embarrassing when people say nice things about me.
It's true though. Like I said, wrestling Twitter can often be quite a toxic place, as I'm sure you understand too. It's some days it can be a great place, and sometimes it can be quite a negative place. But I've always found your account to be honest and positive, which is a good thing.
Thank you. I always think about kind of when I became a part of wrestling Twitter before I was involved, before there was an Uncanny Attractions. And I look back on it and I realized that I was a mean girl, in a way. And I wasn't helping and I wasn't sort of adding positivity to the timeline. And I took a step back and I've curated my timeline to be as positive as humanly possible because I have to deal with can I curse? Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So I'm a fucking sailor. I had to deal with so much shit in my real life that I don't think anyone necessarily needs to deal with that on social media. So try to be as positive as humanly possible. Why do I want people to know me because of the things I don't like? I want people to know me because of the things I do like.
Absolutely. I wish more people had that mentality on Twitter, because it does seem like a lot of people, especially in the wrestling community, where you'd think people just would get along because it's wrestling. We all love wrestling. You'd think people would just make the effort to coexist, but it seems like it's every single day they'll find something else to complain about, or some other scandals happened, and it's just like, it's tiring at times.
It is, and I forget who I was talking to, and he said something really interesting because we were talking about a particular person, and he said, some people think wrestling Twitter is baby faces and heels, and we're talking about real people behind these, avatars. We're talking about real emotions, real human emotions. So it's not black and white. It's gray. It's nuanced, and I just, I over the past couple of years, I've said to myself, what energy do you want to put out? What's the point of putting out all that negative energy? Because that just kind of consumes your day. Just be positive.
That's very true. You can choose the energy you put out, especially on Twitter. You decide what you are typing, and you decide to press send. It's maybe not as easy in real life when you're having face-to-face interaction, but on social media especially, you have 100% control over what you put out there. And I think that's a lot of people don't realize there's a real person on the end of it. But let's move away from Twitter, because I could rant about Twitter all day. We could do a full episode just on Twitter.
We can.
Obviously, I'm sure you are well aware, and you put out the message daily: wear your mask. There's a pandemic going on. Wear the damn mask. How has life been during the pandemic for you? I mean, you obviously, you say you run Uncanny Attractions. How has that affected you as a promoter, and how have you adapted to that?
It's been really shitty. I'm the only one of the three of us, because there's three people who run Uncanny Attractions. It's myself, Lynn Fraley, and MV Young. I'm the only one out of the three of us that really has a kind of 40-hour face-to-face with a customer type of job, essentially, because I'm a stylist. Lynn works in production, so she can do a lot of things from meetings. Michael, can do a lot of things through his Zoom and so forth and so forth. So I was already kind of a little bit aware and prepared of the weirdness that is working in a pandemic. We've had a lot of conversations about it. I try my best. I'm not always the best at it, but I try my best to practice what I preach. So especially me being as loud and vocal as I am on social media about wearing your mask and fans at shows, it was imperative that we did not have a show with fans. easier said than done. Michael's a creative. Michael is a wrestler. So, Michael came up with the idea of his polycult shows. He's now done 2. Both have been very successful. The second one, which was just last week, it was on a 1.3 acre backyard. So like 30 people there, more than enough space for social distancing, for temperature checks, for masks being required. We require all wrestlers to have a COVID test before they can be on the show, which I think is really smart, really easy. But that is a sort of umbrella underneath Uncanny Attractions. But when it comes to Uncanny Attractions drag and drop kits, what was super important to us is how can we do this while being safe and being creative?
Yeah.
We all 3 different very creative people, and one of the things that we constantly tout about Uncanny is that we try to do something new every single time. We try to do something different. We try to kind of carve our own lane, our own path.
Yeah.
And when Michael did a cinematic match with him and Pinky Sanchez with an incredible filming and editing crew called New Fear City Crew, and I was blown away when I saw it, and it immediately clicked, and I said, we have to do a show like this. Like, it's the safest way to do a show, and no one else has ever done it before.
Yeah.
So, and one of the things that I love about wrestling is it's an incredible art form, and I don't really think everyone gets to utilize everything to their potential. Like, it's great what you can do physically in the ring, but like, what's your mind like? Like, what can you do creatively there? So we sat together. We made sure everybody was from New York. We had 2 people that drove in, but everyone had a COVID test that was sent to me. Our entire crew wore masks, and we sat down and we decided, hey, this is, until things get better, this is what we're going to do. And honestly, we plan on potentially doing at least 1 or 2 more of these cinematic shows. Like, why not?
I think it's a great idea. You hit the nail on the head. You said, like, during the pandemic, obviously it pushes the boundaries of being creative, and in wrestling, being creative, it's what it's all about. Wrestling is one of the most creative art forms you can do outside of like theater or something. Wrestling is just theater, and you've got to find a way to be creative. And I think it's forced a lot of companies to open their eyes a bit and try something a little bit different. So like you said, you're doing these cinematic shows. I think that's incredible because I love cinematic wrestling, and it's one of my favorite things. I know I shouldn't have a favorite thing of the COVID era, but that's it. I love cinematic
it's so cool.
It's so good. I would just watch a full show forever of cinematic matches.
Yeah.
I don't need to see another wrestling move ever again. No Canadian destroyers or anything. Just give me cinematic. I love it.
It's because that's the thing and it's crazy when people don't like them. Like, I understand that everyone has their own. I'm all about people liking what they like and enjoying what they enjoy. Wrestling is a variety show. That's the way I think of it. But I mean, most of us are film geeks. Most of us are video game geeks. Most of us are comic book geeks. Like, all of those, personify who I am as a person. So why wouldn't I want to do something really cool and interesting and watch wrestling in a different sort of medium, so to speak?
Yeah.
It 1000%, I think, is the best thing to come from the pandemic in terms of the wrestling community.
Yeah.
And it's also, Uncanny. The thing that I really like about it, so I'm the main booker of Uncanny, and for us, the idea of wrestling isn't, this guy can wrestle really, really well. Most of you can. Like, that's literally what you do. But the idea is, like, who's your character? How can you relate to people? What else is your other type of creativity that you can bring to us?
Yeah.
And that helps us so much as a company, that those are the type of people that we always hire.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the cinematic match, we're just like, oh, do you have any idea? And they are full of ideas. One of the shows, so the show is obvious. Oh, can I talk about the show? Can I plug the show?
Of course, yeah. Plug it all you want. Plug anything. Anything.
So, of course, this is the day after. So last night, September 9th, 10 p.m., it should be up on IWTV. If you watch it from beginning to end, that means that the end of the credits and it's over, we actually get money from every single time you do that. And for the first week, because that's typically when most people watch these shows, we're going to be donating 100% of all of our proceeds to charity, to Save Our Stages and to the Trans Women of Color Collective. So please watch over and over and over. But the show is sort of broken down into 4 different matches, so to speak, or experiences. Even with adverts in between it with different wrestlers, which I thought was like really, really fun and interesting. One of the matches that I think that people are really going to talk about a lot is the main event, MV versus Big Game Leroy, because it's literally a video game match. Like, literally a video game match. New Fair City did incredible. Nick Staff with, his cool musical stylings and the journey of his character. I Hit to Remember, which is one that I wrote and I directed, which is literally a film noir mafia film.
Right.
Which is just, it's cool because it's totally like, it's Randall's Island, where I used to live right by. The bar that we're at is my neighborhood bar. It's my best friend's uncle's bar.
Yeah.
The young lady who plays the crime boss is like my best friend. It's just, I think there's something really different and interesting for every single person that is watching. If you don't like one match, if you don't like one experience, you'll like the other one.
Yeah, that's the amazing thing about wrestling, though, isn't it? You said it's a variety show, and I can't imagine any other form of entertainment or sports or anything where you can just do this. Like, you can watch a match in New Japan and see Minoru Suzuki and Okada beat the crap out of each other, and you think it's like a real fight, and then you can watch a cinematic match, and it's crazy and wacky, but it's still the same sport. Like, it's still wrestling, right? How broad is that spectrum for wrestling? I can't think of anything else where you have that much variety. And like I said, during the pandemic, you just thought, right, we'll do a cinematic event. You wouldn't have that same freedom in anything else. So,
no.
You wouldn't. Some sports have just stopped running completely. Some forms of entertainment and theatre aren't even running. But wrestling, it's just adapted to it.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing in terms of America, because we're just like, oh, fuck it, there's a pandemic, we'll just live through it. But even I tweeted it and I deleted it afterwards because I was like, oh, someone's gonna take the idea, and if someone does, fuck it. But like my friend has a 3-bedroom house on like 2.5 acres upstate in New York, and there's woods and shit. I was like, yeah, we're gonna make a horror film with wrestling. Like, why wouldn't we?
Do that.
The plan is to do it. It'll probably be something closer to like Christmas time. It'll be like a Christmas horror movie, but we're literally gonna write a horror film, just with wrestlers. And like, I think why the fuck not? It's actually
why not? Exactly.
Yeah, what the fuck else am I doing? It's actually like more inexpensive, or less inexpensive. I don't know the proper grammar for that. Cheaper. It's cheaper to actually do these shows because it's, we're not paying the venue, we're not paying for all this other stuff. We just have to pay the talent and just hope no one stops us from recording because we don't have a license. Which we've been pretty good about. Everyone's been pretty good about it. But it's like, when I was a kid, I always wanted to see stuff like this. And that's the way that I think all of us think of like Uncanny. It's like, not only is it about diversity and representation, but it's like what are the aspirations that you had as a child? To me, when I did two of the matches, I just kept thinking to myself, man, I'm doing the Power Rangers. That's literally what I'm doing.
Dude.
Like, I don't know if you can even see it. My morpher.
Yeah, I see it.
I just get to create that. We get to create the Power Rangers with wrestling. Like, why? It's so cool, and I hope more. I hope the show does really, really well for obviously for charity, but I hope the show does really, really well and people being like, yo, that's a cool idea. We're the first show on IWTV, the first show on any streaming site that I know of to have drag performances. like as a regular occurrence as part of their shows, because it's drags and dropkicks.
I think that, just want to say, I think that's a genius name. When I saw the name for that show, I was like, that's amazing.
That's all Lynn's idea. It's so smart. It's so smart. And, you know, I love that we're the first show to do, first company to do a fully cinematic wrestling show. It's just, let's just keep doing new and interesting things, because wrestling, like you said, it's so broad. And we just keep doing the same thing over and over and over. And why? Like, there's, especially when you think about drawing to the masses, right? So, you know, 10 million people used to watch wrestling every Monday night. Where did it go? Like, what are they into now? And you know, most of them are watching the Avengers. You know, most of them are watching these superhero movies. So why wouldn't we want to get them involved with stuff like that by adding cinematic stuff to wrestling? Why wouldn't I want the average person walking down the street to see a poster with a drag queen and be like, what the fuck? And come into our show? Like, wrestling has to evolve if it wants to continue to be a part of popular culture and an incredible art form.
It must be quite rewarding for you as a promoter, as part of that team, to be running a company which is focused on inclusion, diversity. Like you said, the only promotion around where it's really like focusing on, like I said, drag queens and stuff. Like, it's you're not scared to put that out there, and I think that's fantastic. I think it's commendable that you're actually just saying, hey, look, there's wrestling and drag queens and stuff, and it's normal. It's just good. And yeah, it shouldn't be a weird thing. So I think it's great you're doing that. It must be rewarding for you to be able to do that as part of that team. And what would you say the most rewarding thing has been for you as part of Uncanny so far?
I've said this line multiple times before, but you know, I always think to myself, I love wrestling, but wrestling doesn't love me. It just doesn't love Black queer people, and it really sucks. But it doesn't matter anymore, because I get to think and be creative with my friends and my business partners, and put on something that I think showcases diversity. I think when I got started in the wrestling business, I was doing a podcast, and I was asked to do a podcast for a company, and then I slowly started trickling in, and people were not very nice to me. Some people were very nice, but there was a couple of people who I didn't think that I would do anything in wrestling or amount to anything. And my objective isn't to be a wrestling promoter. I'm a stylist. That's what I am. You know, and that's just is what it is. But the fact that there are people who tweet me or tweet if you're tweeting Uncanny Attractions, you're tweeting me. Like, I'm the one that has it. But in saying that they've never seen things like this, they've always wanted to see this diversity. They've always wanted to see this representation. They've always wanted to see drag queens. They've always wanted to see this, and they get to see it now. That makes it all worthwhile. For any person that was mean to, Michael and I came from the same company. Any person that was mean to us before, they're all sitting there watching us and wanting to be a part of this movement that we're doing. And I think it's really important that while I say the word movement, we're not the, there's some companies out there that are all about diversity and representation. And we're not the only one. Hood Slam, based out of California, Rise Wrestling in Chicago, Battle Club Pro, also here in New York City. One of my, I don't think you know this, but London is like my love. So I used to go to London like 3 times a year.
Yeah. Seeing your tweets, you're quite a big fan of the UK, aren't you?
I'm a very big fan of the UK. I have a lot of friends over there. It's been 2 years since I've gone, so I hope to maybe America get it together, go next year. But Riptide is a company, because when I started going to UK, it was 2014. So I was at like chapter 14 of Progress Wrestling. So I saw Chuck Mambo. I saw Chuck Mambo's debut at Progress. That was the show that I was at, and I've been to Rev Pro and all these other companies. But Riptide has come out of nowhere, and I think it's honestly the best produced wrestling company out there.
The camera work is amazing. I've never seen anything like it.
Never seen anything like it.
So good.
Yeah, and it's super diverse, and it's such a, especially like in the UK, there is a lack of booking women of color and people of color.
Yeah, absolutely.
Queer wrestlers, and I think Riptide, which is, surprisingly run by a straight white man, and killing it, and they don't mind. They've been very open about asking questions from a lot of people and like getting into DMs to make sure they're doing things the right way. And I think that's how you run a fucking company. But yeah, we're not the people who spearheaded this movement of diversity and representation. We're just happy to be a part of it, and we want and we hope that as long as all of us together collectively are keeping the ball rolling, there are other companies. Big, major independent wrestling companies, I don't want to say any names, who look at us and kind of go, hey, you know what? We do need to broaden our horizons and step outside the box.
Good.
Asking for diversity isn't asking for much.
No, it isn't. And it's one of those things that's always kind of like blown my mind, the fact that it is to some people. And like it does seem like a lot to ask to some people. And that's always just seemed crazy. In the UK, like you said, there is an issue with booking, even to a degree, people of color. And yeah, and you can go to there's some really good shows I used to go to in Nottingham, and there were good shows, but there was a severe lack of diversity across the board. And I'm not just talking like one or two. It was like people of color, females. It was So,
what's his name? Shakara. What's his name? Roy Johnson. There's so Rampage Brown. There's Big Justice.
I love Rampage. I trained with Rampage.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, he trained at the school just up the road from here.
I saw him. So he was again at my first wrestling show in the UK, which was that Progress show, and it was him versus Samoa Joe. And that match was the definition of big meaty man. I was like, oh my god, look at these men.
Yeah, dude, Rampage is
it's crazy. But there's even Shug, who was over there, for quite some time, who obviously made a cameo in our cinematic show last night. But there's no excuse for it. And I hope as we keep moving forward, fans realize that their money really, really matters, and their opinion really matters. And I think their opinion matters more than it ever has.
Yeah.
You can be so vocal, and you can get things changed.
Oh, yeah.
So be vocal about what you want to see in these companies, and whether it be in America, whether it be in the UK, whether it be in Australia, and the more vocal you are, the more you ask for diversity, the more you ask for that ring and the cast and the crew and the owners and the bookers to look like the world around you, the better wrestling gets as a whole.
Yeah, like you said, it's not hard to make noise nowadays, especially with social media. It's the easiest it's ever been as a wrestling fan to interact with the promoters, the talent. You literally just go on Twitter and you can talk to anybody. If you want to be heard, all you have to do is send a tweet, and like I said, it's that easy. So I'm hoping down the line it will change, because being a Brit, I know people in the UK can be very stubborn when it comes to subjects like this, unfortunately. But I think we are starting to see, especially with promotions like Riptide, and what I think is great is like all female promotions as well are becoming more popular.
Yep.
And I'll be honest, at one point I was like, to me it kind of seemed backwards that there had to be an all-female promotion instead of just having them as a normal part of a wrestling show, if that makes any sense. Like, I've always just thought there should just be male and female wrestling in the same show, and it's just normal. But the more female-only wrestling shows I've seen, I was like, yeah, there is actually a place for this. Like, there should be all-female shows, because especially with a lot of things that have happened recently, I think it's a safe environment, it's good, There's some incredible female talent who don't get the chance to be shown on these regular shows. And there's some amazing UK wrestlers who are female people of color, and whatever it takes to get them out there, let's do it. And I think it's starting to happen in the States too, from what I've seen. There's a lot more, even like GCW, for example, is kind of going that way too. I think they're doing some good work at the moment. But yeah, I mean, as a UK fan, looking at I've always had a passion for American indies. I've never really cared for British wrestling. I've always been an American indie guy. So even when I was younger, instead of watching British wrestling, I was watching Ring of Honor, Chikara, PWG, IWA Mid-South. Like, I've always been a big fan of the American indies. So watching these guys now, I'm happy to see, like, there is, like yourself, Uncanny Attractions, which is all about diversity. Fantastic, and fair play to all of you. I'm glad you're doing it, and I think you're all doing a great job.
Thank you. I think the let's say Uncanny isn't around in 3 years. I don't know what happens. I don't know how the world works. But I think as long as we have made an impact on somebody, and I want to get to the point one day where it's just wrestling, where the whole show is just someone different. And I mean that, like, even the word, like, I hate the word intergender wrestling, because it's sort of like, where do people who are gender non-conforming and people who are non-binary, where do they go in these conversations? And so we're excluding a whole group of people for no reason. And I just want it to be to the point where every single card, there's someone that is different. Every single card, every single match, someone in the stands, like a fan can look at someone and be like, hey, that person reminds me of me.
Absolutely.
That there are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of wrestlers in the world. We don't all have to use the same fucking people. I get it. They can do a flip. That's great. But you can actually impact people more by making a conscious effort to look for talent in places that you probably would have never looked before. And we try to do that. We try to make sure that we're not picking who the new hot favorite is, because that person's going to get booked everywhere. I want to book the people who I know is putting in work. And, like, Michael's from Pittsburgh. So Michael, like, always is gutting from people from Pittsburgh. I'm from the South, so I'm always gutting from people from the South. Lynn, who's relatively new to wrestling, she loves high flyers, so she's always looking for a new high flyer to be on the show. I'm also hoping things go back to normal, because Chuck Mambo will be on Uncanny Attractions. I think he's perfect. Him and Cassius making it happen. They're so perfect for it. But yeah, I just want to. I hope wrestling gets to the point, and I hope that we can just encourage one company to sort of look outside the box, because wrestling is magic. So why do we keep doing the same magic trick over and over?
I like that analogy.
I just thought it out right now. It was super cute. I was like,
did you just come up with that right now?
I said wrestling is magic before, and then I was like, you know what? I feel good.
Oh, that was good.
I also just watched all of the Lord of the Rings again, like literally this morning. I finished the Return of the King.
You watched the Two Towers today, right?
I watched Two Towers and Return of the King today.
Right. Okay.
I finished the Return of the King, like, not even kidding, 20 minutes before we did this interview. So I'm like all hyped up. I've been crying a bit. Like, I've had a morning. I've had a day.
You're inspired.
Yes, I'm very inspired. Gandalf the White flows for me right now. I'm super excited.
Before we wrap things up, Darnell, let's say, right, so this is going up, breaking the fourth wall here. So this is actually the day before the show airs, but this will be airing the day after. So can you give us a hook for people who, let's say they've watched the last show from today, and maybe they haven't, give us a hook to watch the next one. What can we expect from Uncanny Attractions going forwards? What's the hook to bring the people back? And what are Uncanny Attractions going to do different to any of the promotion out there?
I think the hook is that we listen to people, so we're really, really excited to see how people take the cinematic match and and learn and grow from it. I think our thought process is also to bring in more professional people to help us come up with some really cool ideas for things, to make sure that we're really, we're trying to every single time do something new and interesting and exciting. I think that at the end of the day, like, we're just gonna keep on making it gayer. So you should watch it.
I like that. I'm gonna use that as the pull quote for this episode. I like it.
Yeah, like I like my thought process about wrestling. Again, I love so many different types of wrestling. I want my wrestling to be as gay as fucking possible. Like, it's people like in sparkled spandex, y'all. Like, let's get some perspective. Like,
yeah, look,
this shit's campy as fuck. Like,
I've always said that to my friends. We've always said that there is, on the face of it, there isn't anything really more camp than wrestling, and the people who complain about like the campness of it's like, really, have you seen wrestling? It's men in spandex and females in baby oil and slapping each other about a bit and
coming out like literally lip syncing to their own theme song. It's so gay.
And pyro and
nothing like it. I remember there was one day I was like, had a little bit to drink, and I was chilling at home, and I was like listening to music, and I was sitting there. Then I started watching some wrestling. I think I was probably stoned. I was probably smoking. I know I was drinking. And then I was sitting there, and I started to cry as I was watching wrestling. I was like, man, it's so gay. Like, they come out to entrance music and fight. This is amazing. How can you not like it?
The more you think about it, the more real it gets. Like, it's men big men, usually, in baby oil, slapping each other about with all these theatrics and pyro and music, and then they talk to each other before the fight and tell them how they feel, and it's like, it's
so good. There's never been one single person that I haven't brought to an Uncanny show who's been like, my friends are like, I don't really watch wrestling. I was like, you're gonna come to the show, and they've all loved it. Because when you see independent wrestling in like real time in front of you, you can't deny it. Yeah. It's the dumbest yet coolest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I get to watch the Avengers
because it's dumb, right? We love it because it's stupid.
Yeah. There's nothing that I like that is cool. Like, no.
But it's like I said before, it'd be great to have you on again down the line to discuss, the previous shows, the cinematic matches, how you think they went, the reception from the fans to the matches, and let's talk about the future shows too. I always like to save something for next time. So
yes,
as always, give us your social medias, your plugs, anything you want to get out there, and I'll also put the links in the description.
You can follow, what's his fucking Twitter? You can follow the MV, my partner at, I believe it's the MV Young? It could be. It might be. I just used to putting in the at. You can follow me at DNOlicious on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow Uncanny Attraction, social media, which I run, all of that, on Instagram and Twitter at Uncanny_Attract. Make sure that you are, if you aren't subscribed to IWTV, you should be, because you can watch Riptide and us. And if you watch a cinematic show, you got to watch from beginning to end, because that's how we get profit, so we can donate as much as humanly possible to charity. Like, even if you don't like the show, it's okay. You don't have to like the show. At least watch it for charity. Do something. Do something for today. Thank you to everyone who's like supported us. We're over the moon at the reception that we're getting, and I want to continue to hopefully make people happy and make people feel safe and make wrestling the safe space that I wish it was when I was 14. So I want to make it that way as an adult. So.
Oh, that's a nice message. And on that note as well, like I said, you can find us at Ringsiders Wrestling. on everything. I'm lazy with our social media handles. I never usually plug them, to be honest. I just put them in the description and hope people look. But
yeah, people look.
Yeah, you can find us at Ringsiders Wrestling. Chances are, if you're watching it, you already follow us. So, but yeah, it'd be great to have you on again down the line. And I really appreciate you coming on today to speak about Uncanny Attractions, letting us know more about the cinematic shows and what's to come in the future. So thank you for joining us, Darnell. It's been a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you so much, Kevin.
Thank you.